Hi gang, Jeff McAleer once again, and today I'm taking a look at Folklore, the Affliction from our good friends over at GreenBrier Games. Designed by Will Donovan and Nick Blaine. Folklore, the Affliction is a fantasy game, kind of set, I don't want to say dark ages, but kind of a European setting back when all those tales of ghosts and ghoulies and monsters were a big deal in Europe. And Folklore, the Affliction has actually been under development for about 5 years. So this has been percolating for quite some time. If you happen to catch the interview I did with Julia Hearn, and it is Julie Hearn, not Julia, as sometimes I say it a little too quick, so you might get the name wrong. At Gen Con, she talked about this game quite a bit because this was a big Gen Con 50 release. And Folklore is for 1 to 5 players, ages 14 and up, and each chapter of the tale will take about 60 to 90 minutes to play. It also includes 35 minis. Now I have to point out, this unboxing is a little bit of a cheat because I shot an unboxing video, a regular unboxing video with a new camera I had purchased, and it came out terribly. The autofocus didn't work. It was just brutal. So unfortunately, I've already opened this up and taken a peek. I have not read through the rules or anything like that, but you do probably notice that the box cover is on a little bit backwards. It's upside down. But this is a big, massive box, and this is loaded with goodies. So let's dive in and take a look to see what we've got. So first off, we've got some 10-sided dice, 6-sided dice, 4-sided die. Unfortunately, they included, if you can see through the glare here, these kind of odd percentile dice. I've never been a fan of them. Some people dig it. I just like, if I'm doing percentile, just give me just give me 2 different colored dice and I'm good to go. I don't need the 10s. But there's also a little meeple in here. There's also some little markers as well, and some standees. So we've got that. We do have the map, and this is the kind of overland map. Oh, looks like some minis came loose as I was transporting this over to my brother Greg's house, because I always like to share the games with Greg and my nephew Cameron. We play a lot of different stuff over here. So here is kind of the overland map. And Julie had mentioned that when you're traveling in this game, your team, your group, can stay on the roads. They can also go off-road. And off-road adventures or encounters, I guess I would say, are going to be much more difficult than those you encounter on the road. But you also get much more experience, you get better gear, you'll uncover more lore about the game as well. This is something that I've been pretty excited to check out because it's jam-packed with a lot of goodies. So we're going to put that off to the side. Got a bunch of different cards I'm going to look at in just a moment. And I'm not going to show a lot of the cards because I like to keep some surprises in store for people who pick up the game. These cards here, these are tracker cards. And it looks as if you'll use these for various different monsters, different creatures that you'll encounter. We've got the ghost, bottom foe tracker, and I believe this is where you're going to use those little opaque cubes to kind of mark these off. So we've got that. We've got some big old cards for the monsters as well as the characters. There are 6 different character classes that are in this game. I know there's a few more in various different expansions that are available now or on the horizon. I will want to point out I do have Folklore Dark Tales, which I'll be shooting a separate video for because it includes another 39 minis. So let's take a look here. We've got some of the counters, some of the tokens here. Now, the Bat Swarm, Colossal Dark Oak, Etherean, I guess would be the pronunciation, Angry Mob, Abomination. Some of these big baddies actually have miniatures that you can purchase from GreenBrier Games. So the Wraith, so on and so forth. If memory serves me correctly, they're actually resin figures, so they're a little pricier than just plastic or metal. Back in the day, they used to be lead. Used to have a lot of lead miniatures. But I have seen, I believe it's the Colossal Dark Oak, and it is pretty phenomenal. In fact, I believe if you take a peek at the Gen Con 50 video with Julie, there's an overlay shot where I show some of the miniatures that are available separately. So we've got that. Got the story journal, and if memory serves me correctly, there are 6 chapters to the core game, or 6 stories, I should say, probably, and different chapters involved in it. I'm not going to look too far into this book because, once again, I'm one of these guys, I don't like to do spoilers. Even when I'm doing a movie review on the Gaming Gang website, I try to keep it as spoiler-free as possible. So, pretty hefty adventure book here. And we're looking at 52 pages in total there. We also have the rule book. And from my understanding, when you're first going to play Folklore, of course, obviously, you're going to want to read the rule book. But in the stories themselves, they'll actually kind of set it up almost as a tutorial. So you'll be able to learn the game as you play, which is always cool because you really don't want to be having to page through a 30-page rule book before you get something to the table for the first time. So just kind of taking a look through some of the aspects of the game that seem pretty cool, and we'll see that when we look at like the character class cards. Is there's an RPG element to this, and you'll be able to level up and customize your character as you go along. And speaking of customization, Julie had mentioned in the Gen Con interview that GreenBrier Games is actually going to have a web page available where you can create your own adventures and then upload them to the web so you can share them with the community. This really does look like a pretty epic game, and GreenBrier is pretty big on doing epic games. And it's kind of funny because their game boxes are usually pretty heavy. Well, see, we've got like a character record sheet there, character story name, so on and so forth. Then an index on the back. And GreenBrier does these epic games that you're not going to finish up in a very short period of time, which is cool because you want to get your money's worth. Now, I do see that these are kind of encounter maps. They are paper. And I'm sure a few folks out there are going to be like, oh, come on, man, you couldn't make these mounted. And, you know, I understand that because we're always looking for the best components we can possibly get in our games. But when I talk about the MSRP on this, you're probably going to understand why GreenBrier went with these paper encounter maps. And it's not terrible. I mean, you know, they're not just yeah, desktop publishing maps or anything like that, but there are quite a few. And of course, the expansions are going to include even more. Wow, there's actually more maps than I remember the first time I took a peek at. So quite a lot of these. There's a tower. Now I should mention this really isn't just like a straight out dungeon delve. I know recently a lot of games using miniatures, they're still board games, but they're utilizing miniatures, are going towards a direction of dungeon delve, which is cool. I like it, don't get me wrong, but with Folklore the Affliction, there's a lot more going on as far as where your characters encounter monsters and creatures and things like that. Now, I can see that these miniatures have all been tossed around a little bit as I transported this over, so I'm going to go to some earlier video I shot of the miniatures themselves. Alright, so these are the 35 miniatures that come with Folklore the Affliction. And these are pretty much your standard approximately 32 millimeter. And I'm kind of just, you know, going to kind of pan through here. And it looks like pretty good detail on these. Kind of getting a little closer. Yeah, pretty darn good detail. And especially, you know, for folks who want to paint the miniatures, that's super important because really soft detail just doesn't paint up well. Now, I have to admit, it doesn't look like there's super deep cuts. Oh, wait. Yeah. You know, the facial detail. Let's see. Yeah. Still pretty good detail for plastic minis too. Okay, so coming down here. I wonder if, is that a werewolf there on the left? Alright, and then we got some wolves. Oh, that one wolf moved! Oh, okay. Well, these look like vampires. That kind of looks like the Nosferatu that I was talking about, but I might be wrong. Those certainly do look like vampires. All right. Pretty cool. So yes, so there are the 35 minis that come with Folklore the Affliction. And now that we've taken a closer look at some of the miniatures, let's start opening these things up. Look at some of the cards that are included as well. Now, these are actually kind of little, I don't want to say screens necessarily, for the different character classes. We got the Arcanist, the Archaeologist, the Avenging Madman, who, strangely enough, Julie said that would be a perfect fit for myself when we were doing our interview. The Exorcist, the Telepath, Witch Hunter, and so forth. So it shows your starting abilities, starting equipment, location extras, and then on the back is kind of a lore tree. I would assume that GreenBrier doesn't expect you to be like marking off these cards with pen or something like that. So it's very possible that you might decide that you want to photocopy these and just have them as sheets available to the players. So, as I mentioned before, there are 6 character classes in the core game. Then we have these mega cards, these big cards. which are some of the monsters, and I do believe I recall seeing that there's some characters too. So we've got the flesh-eating ghoul, decaying dead, dark oak, bat swarm, and they are dual-sided too, if you notice. I'm not going to go through a lot of the monsters in that. Like I said, I want to keep some surprises in store. But then we've got, these look like these are the big baddies. Yep, the Abomination, Etherean, and then we also have the character cards. So obviously this game has a lot of moving parts. This is not going to be a game that you're going to just jump into. You're going to take a peek online and say, oh, okay, I've got a playthrough. I watched 5 minutes of a playthrough. I'm good to go. No, this is going to be a game that you're going to invest a little bit of time to be able to play well and to really enjoy. So these are the cards that we've got for the monsters and characters. Then we've got a few decks, I believe, of various cards here with some events. Come on, there we go. So we got road events. Kind of keep going through a little bit. Some choices that you can make. Off-road events. And this is really going to add to the replayability. I know Julie had mentioned to me that she'd played through all the chapters of the game and never gone through the entire event decks. So that's pretty cool. As we can see, there's way more road events than off-road events. But then, of course, you also see that we've got day and night for the road events. All right, so we've got that. And then, of course, we've got quite a few different decks of cards that are in this bag here. So we're looking at, there's going to be equipment, there's going to be spells. So we got rituals, Arcane Ward, Cloak of the Wind, Disorientation. Yeah, that's basically something I'm always under the spell of. Energy Flux, Enthrall. We've got abilities, which I believe there are quite a few of these. Yep, there's quite a few. And if you've played Apocalypse 2, you might remember that as you're playing, as your survivors kind of level up, you're able to take these ability cards, which are really cool because they really start to customize your characters. Of course, granted, they're random, but you start getting these special abilities for your different survivors, and it looks as if this is something, once again, you're going to be doing here in Folklore, the Affliction. So we got the abilities. Well, looks like they're... Oh, I was going to say, they're not all abilities yet. We've got some artifact cards, which I don't think there's a ton of because they're kind of special. Let's take a look at one. Magnum Opus. Yay, the Magnum Opus. So these are probably really useful items that you can run across in the adventuring. Then we've got a tarot deck. The Hermit, the Chariot, Death, the Hanged Man. I'm taking a wild guess that tarot might be very random bonuses or penalties that your characters can possibly end up having during the game. Alright, let's see here. So then we've got items, and I remember there's a lot of these. Okay, items, items, items! Wow, okay. Then we've got some companions. So as far as the items, these are different pieces of gear and things like that that you're going to be able to get from the encounters, or possibly when you kill some of these monsters, they're going to drop these. Spirit of Wine, Symbol of Tutmos, Torch. No, I'd rather have the wine than the torch. A few of these are probably going to be duplicates, but then of course there's going to be like Amulet of the Spirits. That looks like that's something that's going to be fairly rare. And then it looks as if we've got a value for these as well, because I'm sure you can probably sell some of this stuff when you go into towns and try to buy different things. So like I said, I don't want to ruin the surprises. I'm not going to go through all of that. But then there's also some NPCs that you can get, that your characters can have, like followers. Oh gosh, if you remember, what was it? Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, I think, was the first game to start tossing in like NPCs that would just follow you. They were just followers. So farmer, minstrel, mystic, priest. And then we also have prayers. Oh, and then we got companion animals too. So looking at the prayers, obviously these are the priestly characters, can get these. Banishment, Exorcise Evil, Boundless Faith, From the Brink. Just some examples there. And then obviously more of the forest style characters or druidic characters are going to be able to have animal companions. The dove, the cobra, the drake, golden canary. Just a few of the examples there. So Folklore the Affliction is just jam-packed with goodies. As I try to pick up the box cover here, kind of drop it back over here. And the interesting thing with Folklore the Affliction is the price point. And the price point for Folklore the Affliction, the MSRP, is $95. And you have to keep in mind, it has 35 miniatures included in the game. So there's going to be a lot of gameplay in here. But I also want to mention that, and of course Jeff and Teresa and Julie and all the other gang at GreenBrier might want to cover their ears for this. $95 for 35 miniatures, just if you were going to play a miniatures game, is a pretty smoking deal. So keep in mind, you could be picking up a bunch of miniatures, maybe not even be looking at playing Folklore the Affliction, and you're still getting a pretty rockin' deal on the miniatures alone. Anyway, so the GreenBrier gang can kind of uncover their ears now. So as I mentioned, Folklore the Affliction carries an MSRP of $95. You can learn more by going to GreenBrierGames.com to check out Folklore, as well as the various different expansions that are available for it, and the whole lineup of really cool GreenBrier games. Once again, I am Jeff McAleer, and for the latest in gaming news, reviews, comics, movies, TV, come on, you know the drill. Go over to thegaminggang.com and get your geek on. And until next time, thanks for watching.